Labor's hate speech laws are facing a growing chorus of criticism this morning, with the Coalition, the Greens, civil rights groups and legal experts all piling on the Prime Minister's bill. Joining us to discuss today's headlines is Labor MP Dan Repacholi and Liberal MP Zoe McKenzie. Good morning to you both. Dan, let's start with you. You're facing a big uphill battle here. Things would be a whole lot easier, I'm sure, if the PM was willing to debate hate speech and gun reform separately. Let's start on the gun reforms. It's a difficult one for you. You're a noted recreational shooter. You represented the country in the sport. And you've previously said you do not support changes that unfairly target responsible, law-abiding firearms owners. Is that what these laws were going to do?
Well, the difference between the states and territories is quite a lot here, Joel. And the comments I made there were around what New South Wales did. What we're doing here federally is very different because the states and territories have control over most of this. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we put in legislation that is there to make sure that people who shoot like I do in competition, farmers, and also the general public can have good assurance that we're here doing the right thing for law-abiding firearms owners.
Do you honestly think that your constituents, a lot of them farmers, as you said, would back these firearm reforms?
A lot of these reforms that are happening from us federally don't even come into account for most of the everyday firearms users in the seat of the hunter or around the country. It is usually where this will fit in is around industry. Industry is the ones that will be affected here the most, and that's why I'm continually having conversations with industry and then speaking with our minister in this area and also their office to make sure that they understand what industry is going through in this space right now.
Zoe, Labor's bill clearly flawed. There's a lot of division around it, but frankly, it's your party who is showing very little interest in trying to get a deal done. Do you think that sits well with the general Australian public who clearly wants something done on these issues?
Joel, I think that's unfair. We were the ones who've been calling for this, not just since the 14th of December, but indeed for years, since the 7th of October attacks back in 2023. We've been calling for greater measures in relation to anti-Semitism. That's what this was about. We get a bill on Monday that's not about anti-Semitism. It's about a much broader set of issues. It combines the issues about gun laws that you've rightfully just discussed with Dan. And frankly, it's ended up a completely friendless bill. We don't support it at the way it's drafted. The Greens don't support it in the way it's drafted. And as you've said, civil society doesn't support it either. And most importantly, the Jewish community have serious reservations about the legislation and will it achieve its desired effect. So it's a friendless bill, and frankly, the government should sit down with us and talk about the precise measures required to address the scourge of anti-Semitism in this country.
Do you think there is sort of consensus within the coalition on these issues, or is this the fact that Susan Lee just can't get a handle on her own MPs?
No, there's so much in this bill, Joel. As you've said, it goes to about 20 measures. It should just focus on 2 or 3. That's what we've been calling on them to do, to focus on anti-Semitism and indeed to focus on parts of migration that go to, or that are relevant to, anti-Semitism in this country. Those are the bits that are important, and we've indicated that we will sit down and talk about it. You've got a parliamentary joint committee on foot at the moment looking at the bill. Recommendations will come out of that, I suspect, from Labor itself to make amendments to the bill, and we can move forward from there. We'll have a party room discussion in coming hours and days to talk about what can be done to improve the bills, and we'll be constructive if we can. But as the leader said yesterday, it's a bit of a dog's breakfast, and at this point it looks unsalvageable, but of course we will try because it's important that we do. We must address anti-Semitism in this country.
So, Dan, if Labor's a yes, the coalition clearly a no, this could all come down to the Greens. They might be the kingmakers here. Not a natural partnership between you and the Greens. Are you going to be prepared to meet their demands?
Look, Joel, what we want to do is work constructively with everybody in the opposition. And we would like bipartisan support on this because Australians deserve this. That is what is important here, is to make sure that we're all on the same page. We're all fighting for Australians in this country to make sure it's a safe place for everybody in this country. That's what we want to see happen. And for the opposition to come out and say that they can't work with this at all, they've been calling for us for a long time to do work here, and we've been working on this since this attack happened, since this dreadful attack happened, and now we're here doing it, and now they don't want to be at the table. This is hard. This is hard work. That's what government's there to do, but that's what the opposition should be there to work with us on as well, to make sure that we are doing what's best in the interest of all Australians and working bipartisan together, because that's what Aussies want to see us do after a terrible incident like this.
OK, well, there might be a lot of talk, but perhaps no outcome out of this. But let's move on. The US president has set his sights, apparently, on the Gold Coast paradise. His family in talks to build Australia's first ever Trump Tower on the Goldie. Zoe, how do you think this iconic gold Trump lettering is going to look on the Surfers Paradise skyline?
Well, I welcome all investment from the United States. The United States is our #1 investor still, so this could make a real addition to the landscape on Surfers Paradise, a place I went to as a kid. I think I stayed at the Aluka site, which is where it's planned for. But I wouldn't want him to stop just at that site, because we've got a couple of islands that could be Trump Island. So you've got Dunk Island that's sitting there underdeveloped, Keppel Island, Lindeman Island. All have suffered from cyclones and haven't been rebuilt. So I say, look at the islands while you're at it, Mr Trump.
Maybe if they fall over, Dan, what about a Cessnock Trump Tower? Do you think that'll fly?
Oh, it'll go right here in Cessnock. There'll be beautiful views, the vineyards out to the wonderful mines and the biggest lake in the saltwater lake in the Southern Hemisphere. It'll be the place to be.
Yeah, I can see you welcoming the Don into the Hunter. I'm not sure it's going to happen, though. Thank you both for your time.
Cheers.